art can evolve too. Hi friends, welcome to another video. I'm Emily, otherwise known as Shamanism. You can call me just about anything, just don't call me late for dinner. It's my pleasure to have you here. I'm a musician, an author, a vibrational healer, an entrepreneur, and the occasional comedian. Glad to have you here, and if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. Mwah. So what I wanted to talk about in this video was something that was very unexpected to me. Some of you know that I'm an artist, and that's a new title for me to claim. I love it. I'm having fun with it, to be perfectly honest. It's something which, hilariously, I sort of had resistance to claiming for most of my life. That's a whole story for another day. So, art. The topic of today's beautiful video is art, and the fact that I had this cool discovery with art making. And what I discovered was that art is not fixed. Now, you may be like, duh, because on one hand, also, the way that people look at art, like everyone's interpretation of art is different. When they look at a particular piece of art, it's not like everybody agrees necessarily on, I don't want to call it the painting's meaning, what you see there almost essentially. And that plays a lot into, I believe, what the individual viewing it believes. The experience that I had, and it was really kind of interesting because I wasn't expecting this to happen. If you've seen one of my other videos, I did one about art, and I don't remember the hecking title of it, so I'll try to remember to link it in the description or at the end of the video. And what I talked about in that particular video is how it's okay to throw out your art creations, because sometimes, you know, that thing is just not going where you want it to go, and it's completely okay to scrap it, let the universe recycle that energy, and you can create something new and different. However, I also learned another valuable, important lesson while creating art more recently. And here's what happened. So I had this piece of art that I made. It was sort of like a mishmash of just designs. What I mean is, I took a piece of paper and I just drew some geometric shapes on it, and I was going to sort of fill them in and make different patterns, and I don't really know how to explain it. I was going to turn it into art. And the process that I had in my head of creating this, I began to follow. So I was painting it in a certain way and doing this and that. And when the paint was, when I was done painting, doing what I was going to do, and I was letting it dry, I was looking at it and I was like, I don't like this thing at all. I really don't. So it sat in my office for probably like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks before I even thought to look at it again. And if you've seen the video on throwing out the art, then you know that I'm a proponent of not just instantaneously throwing it away, though, because we are pretty impulsive people as humans. And sometimes revisiting a piece can help. So essentially that's what happened with this piece. I put it aside. I was like, okay, maybe it's not total garbage, because yes, my inner critic at times is really harsh. Maybe it's not total crap. I'll put it aside and we'll see if it like wants to turn into something, or if it can turn into something else later, whatever. If I want to try to make it into something, right? And so I leave it for 2 or 3 weeks, or whatever the amount of time it was. And I picked it back up and I kind of noodled on it. And I have spoken about this recently with the art making process, how when you allow yourself to just freely create, it's so liberating. So what I did with this piece was picked it back up and I said, you know what? Okay, universe, also on my surrender topic. I was like, all right, I hand this over to you as a creation. I'm just gonna play with it and see what turns out. And so instead of like, it's so strange, guys, the way that my brain works when it comes to art creation, it even makes a process out of that, which my personal view is that art creation should be fun. Thereby you shouldn't have like a prescriptive plan for how you're going to do it, i.e. first step, I'm going to draw lines, then I'm going to paint. Do you know what I mean? And yet, the hilarious part about that is genuinely, that's how my brain works. My brain will be like, yay, fun art project, and then immediately start to organize the like to-do list of this goes first, this goes second, this goes. So in an effort to like dismantle that part of my brain, at least temporarily, and to get more into my creative flow, I pulled back out this art piece and I said to myself, okay, I'm going to give myself the permission to just let it be whatever it's going to be, and just become. So again, took off the shackles or the restraints or whatever from myself of, it's going to be just a watercolor painting or whatever. And I said, okay, whatever I'm inspired to use, I'll use. I'll use ink, I'll glue things on, I'll do whatever if I want to. I'll just go with the flow and with my inspiration, what I'm called to add or not add or whatever, and to do with it. And I did that. And that is the result of that is this video, because what essentially happened was I ended up creating something that I liked so much more. Like, there's no comparison. The first iteration of this thing was awful. It was ugly. I'm being very judgmental, but whatever, hear me out. Just for the case of comparison, it was unattractive. I didn't like the colors. I didn't like the shapes. I really didn't like how kind of anything turned out. None of the textures were how I wanted them to be. In other words, it was very imperfect. Also, I was just kind of personally disappointed and disgusted with it. So I was very close to throwing it out. Put it aside, came back to it, and now it's maybe one of my, I'm not just saying this for the sake of the video, it is maybe one of my favorite pieces that I've ever made, because as I spoke about in this other video, whichever one it was, when you let yourself just free create, you know, we talk about it with writing, how they call it free writing, or what do they call it? Thought writing or something. The word is escaping me in the moment. It's when you just allow your mind to free dump. Mind dumping? All of this sounds wrong, but it's some variety of that. You get the point. And when you let yourself mind dump or art dump with, this sounds awful. When you let yourself unfilteredly just express onto a page, or to create the art, or to do it just in flow as per how you feel, it turns out so much cooler, and you really can create just an awesome piece of art or magic or whatever it is that you're doing. Music, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's just really organized, like whatever it is that you're doing. Point is, art can evolve. That is what I wanted to share with you all. As I have said in the video about throwing away your art, if you do feel called, also give it a chance, because you'd be surprised. Literally what was probably my most hated piece, I really wasn't happy with this piece. What was one that I absolutely refused and did not want to look at, went from being that to one that I'm like, that's pretty darn cool. So give yourself the space to evolve, and more importantly, give your creations also the space to evolve. Honestly, give everything in your life the space to evolve, because the kicker of it all is that everything and everyone all the time is always growing and expanding. So honestly, we could all use a little room to shake it up, baby. So if you know anyone who this video would help, please do share it with them. Subscribe, as it helps me to get the messages like these out there to those folks like you who need to hear them. And last but not least, if I can help you in any way, particularly with your health, and you would like some coaching, please don't hesitate to reach out at this email address, where it would be my pleasure to serve you in any way that I can. So have a beautiful and a blessed rest of your day or night whenever you're seeing this, and I will see you beautiful cats in the next video. Namaste, much love, and stay healthy. Bye. And also, I guess maybe if you're colorblind and things like that. If you saw though, because we are pretty impulsive people as humans. Mind dumping? All of this sounds wrong, but it's some variety of that. You get the point. Let it be, let it be, let it be. But duh. Honestly, we could all use a little room to shake it up, baby. So that's how my brain works. Welcome back to another video. Sure.